Emmanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sunny Hostin, is accused in December lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases.
For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Sunny host thought she was having a rough day until Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus pulled up like it was open mic night at a roast battle, and they didn't come to play nice. They came with flamethrowers made of sarcasm and petty precision. Her husband's jaw-dropping $450 million court drama, that was just the appetizer. What followed? A savage serving of public humiliation hotter than a courtroom under crossfire. Tyrus lit the match, and Gutfeld made sure it burned. Greg didn't miss a single beat, like he'd been rehearsing this moment his whole life. And Sunny, let's just say that silence, it was so loud it deserved its own award show category. Something clearly hit a nerve because what came next took everyone by surprise. The mess behind this legal firestorm runs way deeper than folks thought, and the receipts are wild.
About 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system, and you know, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, you know, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid.
It is funny. She is so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she.
For years, Sunny Hostin strutted on The View like she was the judge, jury, and daytime TV executioner. Gavel in one hand, moral superiority in the other. She didn't just comment, she sentenced people. One wrong opinion, you're basically exiled from the brunch table. But this week, the courtroom queen got dragged into her own scandal, front and center in a $450 million disaster with her name all over it. Grab your popcorn, because Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus came in hot, revving their sarcasm engines like they were gearing up for a roast straight out of Mount Olympus. And trust, they had the perfect target, Sunny Hostin. For years, she's made a whole career out of being offended on cue. Outraged? Check. Shocked? Always. Ready to drop moral judgment faster than a gavel in court? Absolutely. She built her brand on being the high priestess of outrage on a show that feels more like emotional WWE than actual dialogue. But now that her own husband is allegedly knee-deep in a financial mess that makes the FTX collapse look like some middle school fundraiser.
Man that will go after white America and talk about them like dogs, that doesn't represent our ideals or values for anyone. And get rid of those people, and this will clear up real quick. So do you have to actually look in the mirror and clean up your own backyard and get the racist people out? Because that's who you allowed in. You allowed black racist on TV who could just go all day and say anything about white people. And I guess lo and behold, they forgot that there's a lot of people at home, white people at home during the day that are not watching your show anymore. So just clean it up.
Yeah, you know, Emily.
Suddenly, it's respect my privacy and let's wait for due process. Oh, how convenient. When others are in the hot seat, it's full-on judgment day with a side of eye rolls. But when the scandal's knocking on her front door, total silence. The queen of courtroom commentary has apparently discovered the magic of zipping it. Standing ovation. Enter Gutfeld and Tyrus, two sarcasm slingers with enough dry wit to keep an entire nation lit, and they weren't about to let this walking contradiction slide. That hypocrisy sandwich? They bit into it like they hadn't eaten in days. The timing? Too perfect to ignore.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from
Greg Gutfeld, aka the king of calling out media fakery with the timing of a stand-up comic and the aim of a trained sniper, basically through a celebration on live TV. And Tyrus? Man, he might as well have shown up with a lawn chair and marshmallows to toast over the smoldering remains of Sunny Hostin's credibility. Let's break down this $450 million courtroom mess, shall we? According to all the swirling headlines and social media posts that are damn near catching fire, Sunny's husband is allegedly right in the middle of a legal nightmare so massive it makes the Enron disaster look like a lost receipt. The accusations? Oh, they range from shady financial dealings to full-blown fraud. But is Sunny commenting? Nope. The woman who used to treat legal accountability like a sport has gone more silent than a broken Alexa.
Makes Sunny Hostin, who thinks climate change caused the solar eclipse, the dumbest of them all. Because everyone knows the moon caused the eclipse, which is controlled by the View's gravitational pull.
It's like someone snatched her inner prosecutor and swapped her out with a blank dial tone. But this isn't just about the size of the scandal, though yeah, it's massive. The real twist. The irony. This is the same woman who's made a name for herself slicing up other people's legal disasters like it's her personal hobby. The second a Republican catches a lawsuit, Sunny's already drafting her dramatic closing arguments. But when her own world starts crumbling, now it's all let's not jump to conclusions. That ain't just ironic, that's performance art on another level. Greg Gutfeld didn't waste even a blink. He dropped a segment that felt less like news and more like a roast battle with a legal twist. The bottom line: if hypocrisy were an Olympic sport, Sunny Hostin just took home the gold, silver, and bronze. Gutfeld broke down the double standard like a kid tearing into Christmas gifts, each layer revealing something messier than the last. And in the background, you could practically hear Tyrus sharpening his verbal machete, ready to slice through the nonsense.
Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now the View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter. So
no, he swung that blade. Tyrus never wanted to bite his tongue, came in swinging with zingers so sharp they could cut glass. With the calm swagger of someone who's watched one too many hours of daytime drama and finally decided to clap back. He didn't just highlight the scandal, he shredded the smug attitude that came with it. The arrogance. The self-righteous rants. The entire persona crumbled like a stale cookie. And when the so-called queen of courtroom commentary loses her crown in a scandal this explosive, you better believe Tyrus is right there, velvet pillow in hand, ready to collect it like a trophy. And don't think we forgot about the rest of the View crew. The panel that usually explodes over every political hiccup suddenly went silent like they all caught laryngitis at the same time. Joy Behar, who's usually loud enough to echo 3 zip codes over, looked like she'd just seen a ghost. Whoopi Goldberg, normally overflowing with dramatic speeches about right and wrong, could barely muster a shrug.
Sure, all that, and the price of butter. Sunny gets the game ball. If it wasn't for her, asking that question, it might have been a closer election. Listen, they're bitter, they're angry, they're entitled. They also should be. This should have been a reset for everyone who pushed lies and misinformation for the last. They called him Hitler. They call these things. America rejected them, and instead of coming back and saying we lied, they instead are now doubling down. So let her keep doing it, because if she keeps that up, we're going to keep getting the Senate and probably the House and the White House, because people see right through your lies. So keep doing what you're doing. Game ball.
It's wild. These are the same folks who threw an on-air meltdown because a conservative politician mispronounced a word. But now, with a $450 million scandal dragging one of their own into legal chaos, the outrage meter flatlined. All of a sudden, it's complicated and nuanced. How convenient, right? Meanwhile, social media wasn't having it. Twitter lit up like a bonfire at a scandal festival. Memes rolled in like a tidal wave, and Sunny didn't just get roasted, she got flamed. Greg Gutfeld, ever the opportunist with the MIC, took that moment and spun it into a masterclass on media elitism, the kind where public figures scream for accountability until it's their skeletons falling out the closet. Gutfeld, with that signature deadpan delivery, threw shade so smooth it felt surgical. He called out how The View, the show that practically brands itself on truth and transparency, was suddenly developing a suspicious case of selective silence. Like, where did all that moral fire go? It's easy to love the high ground until it crumbles beneath your feet.
End of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing. One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any is she said, well, I guess that's just what they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
And the cherry on top. The View acted like none of it ever happened. Not a peep, not a headline, not even a throwaway sentence. This is the same crew that will spend 20 minutes breaking down Taylor Swift's dating history. But somehow a $450 million scandal crashing through Sunny's front door doesn't earn a single second. Were they trying to be classy or just plain scared? You decide. Gutfeld wrapped up with a closing line so cold, so cutting, it might just be the most ironic MIC drop in TV history. With the most innocent smirk he could muster, Greg Gutfeld posed the question, would Sunny like to come on his show to chat about the value of accountability? Oh, but don't get it twisted. That invitation was soaked in sarcasm, wrapped in irony, and shaded so hard it should have come with SPF 100. Meanwhile, Tyrus leaned in, locked eyes with the camera, and dropped one of his classic smirks, the kind that screams, "We told you so." But this isn't just about Sunny. This scandal, it's a giant mirror held up to the hypocrisy circus that's been parading through mainstream media for years. These polished pundits love to crown.
It's not even that. In The View, you don't need to find Trumpers. You need to fire your race baiters.
Yeah.
You need to fire the two races. You've had people. You had a McCain on there. You've had people on there before, and you ran them off. So the racist ones who want to stick to this, Whoopi and Sunny, and the, was it Bette Midler? What's her name? Yeah, broke-ass Bette Midler. Fire them and bring people in. Maybe you could get McCain to come back.
Then suddenly, we're in a Broadway-level performance of Denial, the musical. They love to recite laws like Holy Scripture until you realize their own commandments are scribbled on napkins and tossed in the trash. Now let's talk about those jumping to Sunny's defense. They cry she shouldn't be judged for her husband's actions. They cry, and yeah, on paper that sounds fair. But this is the same woman who's dragged the families of political opponents like she was guest starring on CSI, Hypocrisy Edition. Now she wants nuance. She wants understanding. Please. That's not just a double standard. That's a full-on double-decker tour bus of irony with a denial horn blaring in the background. And don't get too comfortable. The fallout? It's only just kicking off. More receipts are bound to surface. Sunny might have to do more than just sit through commercial breaks with that signature smug stare, a statement, a short leave, or maybe just turning down the volume on that moral superiority complex.
That's not what I read. The true sign of the apocalypse is someone that dumb has a law degree. Worse, if your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years.
No matter what happens next, the damage is already nuclear. Sunny Hostin's credibility didn't just take a hit, it got atom bombed. And let's be real, The View was never exactly a fortress of journalistic gold. But this scandal, it ripped the last threads off that curtain and exposed a panel moving like a daytime mafia, circling the wagons to protect their own loyalty over logic. If you tuned in hoping for some self-awareness, you're better off waiting for a snowstorm in July. These are the same folks who could trip over their own contradictions and still find a way to blame Republicans, expecting them to laugh at their own absurdity or admit hypocrisy. About as likely as Sunny Hostin walking on set with her husband's bail paperwork and reading it out loud. When it came time to face the music, Sunny didn't just hit mute, she slammed that button like it owed her money. And in this situation, her whole reputation was riding on it. The once loud and proud queen of courtroom commentary, the interrupter-in-chief, the one-woman law school on legs, suddenly vanished into strategic silence.
She is shaming descendants of this. Will she continue to do that when she is now one of them, Dana? And it is funny, she is so wrapped up in identity and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
This is the same woman who could stretch a 7-second squirrel clip into a full legal breakdown of Capitol Hill policy. But now, faced with a $450 million courtroom mess starring her own husband, poof. Sunny's voice vanished faster than a politician's promises after Election Day. Gone were the smug interrogations. Gone were the legal buzzwords. No fire, no fight, just Sunny turned screensaver. Viewers sat stunned as she blinked slowly, rearranging her note cards like she was folding up a legal plea deal, origami style. It was like watching a defense attorney try to play charades during a tax audit, awkward, panicked, and painfully obvious. Every side eye, every suspicious sip from that overused mug, every nervous shuffle practically screamed, "Please don't ask me about the giant felon-shaped elephant doing backflips in this segment." Sunny's body language, full-on courtroom mime mode. Arms crossed tighter than a billionaire's offshore bank account. Shoulders so tense they could slice deli meat clean off the slicer. 1 second she's nodding like a bobblehead at a legal seminar, the next she's zoning out so hard it looked like she was counting ceiling tiles for legal advice. Her eyes kept darting like she was reading invisible fine print on the teleprompter, or maybe her husband's latest court filing. Meanwhile, caught between Whoopi's bored eye rolls and Joy Behor's rambling tangents about who knows what, Sunny sat frozen, like she just spotted her husband's bail amount printed across her cards in bold. And the best part, every time a topic even tiptoed near corruption, fraud, or anything involving rich folks getting caught, Sunny suddenly found the abyss so fascinating, like she was trying to lock eyes with the void and negotiate an escape plan. Her face said it all, desperate to telepathically disappear. The plot twist didn't work. The audience noticed. Twitter noticed. And Greg Gutfeld? He definitely noticed. And that man doesn't even blink during verbal combat.
Anna went in a different direction. But I love the fact that, Manny is younger and he's
How
very...
much younger is he?
Just a little bit.
He's like 1 year, isn't he? Like a month or a year or 10 years?
5 years. It's more than a year.
Oh.
Anyway, it's not about me. I think.
Oh, no.
I think that it's very helpful that he's handy, and when we travel, I'm not picking up any bags. He's the one that's hefting them overhead. He throws the garbage out.
Right.
He does the heavy.
Let's be real. Sunny's usual go-to move is jumping in mid-sentence with "actually, that's not how due process works." But this time, she didn't even try. Just blank stares, tight lips, and vibes of pure damage control. Now the only thing Sunny's lawyering up is her facial expression, because oops, turns out the due process she used to preach like gospel is now knocking on her front door. And it's not just knocking, it's got a subpoena. The interruptions that once made her the loudest voice in the studio, they've morphed into the fading echoes of her credibility. These days, she just sits, blinks, and sips from that comically oversized mug like it's filled with vanishing cream and wishful thinking. Meanwhile, the viewers, glued to their screens, half expecting her to finally crack and yell objection at her own reflection. But that silence. It's not confidence, it's panic. A quiet, twitchy scramble to dodge, deflect, and outlast a scandal so massive it's practically stomping across the set with flashing lights and sirens. Hate to break it to you, Sunny, but you can't cross-examine karma. And while she's busy giving the performance of her life playing mute while the walls close in, Greg Gutfeld Tyrus out here giving the people a front row seat to the takedown America didn't even know it needed. In a world where double standards run the show and moral outrage is just another performance tool, these two served up pure, unfiltered catharsis. No script, no filter, just two men torching the hypocrisy with the kind of energy Sunny used to reserve for everyone else. Watching the mighty take a tumble? Oh, it's not just satisfying, it's straight up therapy. Will Sunny bounce back? Probably. The View has a history of keeping its hosts around as long as they're saying the right things and sticking to the script. Who knows, maybe she'll spin this into a redemption arc, slap together a TED Talk called When Justice Hits Too Close to Home, and call it personal growth. But until then, the memes aren't stopping. The internet isn't done laughing. And Greg Gutfeld Tyrus, they're circling overhead like comedy vultures, with receipts in one hand and punchlines in the other. Because when you build your whole career around handing out moral judgments like parking tickets, don't be shocked when the gavel finally swings back hard enough to knock the smug clean off your highlight reel. So the next time The View gears up to deliver another preachy lecture from their mountaintop of morality, just remember, even the loudest voices can end up choking on their own script. Especially when Gutfeld Tyrus are sitting ringside, cracking jokes and pulling up clips like it's a courtroom comedy special. If this is how Sunny handles a legal meltdown, we cannot wait to see how she handles daytime ratings next. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next.